Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Um, a heads up in advance that if you are on Instagram, this is a fundraiser for the Bail Project, helping to bail out people who have been incarcerated, particularly now, during protests, peaceful protests, things like that. And on YouTube, all of the proceeds of this stream next week, I will be donating that to the Innocence Project, which is a similar idea. It's an organization here local to Cincinnati, but they work to release people who have been wrongly incarcerated. So that is why I'm here. So if you have money, please do consider donating. But if you do not, that's totally fine. Like I said, on YouTube, all of the proceeds, so that means like the ad revenue that I get. So if you just watch the ads, whatever, I will donate all of that. So you don't have, if donating is not in your budget right now, just watching the stream on YouTube, rewatching it, things like that, definitely will help. And like I said, this time next week, so next Monday, whatever revenue the live stream has earned, I will be donating to the Innocence Project here in Cincinnati. On Instagram, you can just donate. There should be a donate button that pops up. So I wanted to talk about this idea, and you will have heard about this. You will have heard me speak about this if you got my email this morning, if you're on my 1 Minute Monday newsletter. Hi, everyone. I will get to all of your questions and comments and stuff in a few minutes, if that's okay. But yeah, I wanted to talk about this idea of not going back to normal, because everyone is talking about this, like, I can't wait to get back to normal. I can't wait until things return to normal. And I just want us to kind of take a minute and question what normal is. I think there is this idea, because we have been in lockdown for so long and things have been tough for months now, and in other cases decades. I think there's this idea that the grass was greener beforehand, that our lives were wonderful beforehand, and that once we go back to that, everything will be great again. And that's just not the case. I think a lot of us, there were things about our our pre-lockdown lives that we weren't entirely happy with, both on a personal level and what is this? I'm trying to see, both on a personal level, but also on a global level. So I want you to think about that. In my email this morning, I wrote about how 2020 basically is the year that is just leveling everything, hopefully, just knocking everything to the ground, everything that is rotten, everything that needs changing. And the reality is that some of the good stuff has to go with that. And the kind of metaphor that I used in my email was that it's like a house that has been built on very shaky foundations. And there is a lot you can do to that house, to try and make it better. You can build on extensions, and you can, give it a lick of paint, and you can buy new furniture. And there are all sorts of things you can do to kind of plaster over the cracks. But if your foundations are not solid, eventually the house will need to be knocked and a better house built in its place. Not necessarily a bigger house, but a better house, one that is built on firmer foundations. So that's kind of what I have been thinking about myself a lot, even since this pandemic started, knowing that life was changing. And it's a bug. What is this? I was outside watering all the plants, that's why. I have a potato. One of my potato plants is growing. Just thought I would throw that out there. But yeah, that whole idea of using this time as kind of a time of transformation, just, trying to get back to basics and finding who we are at our core and what we want our lives to be and what we want the world to look like. I keep thinking about it in terms of, there are certain things that I fight for, that I believe in, that I stand for. And it's not always easy. Um, and I'm raising my daughter to also fight for those things, but I'm doing it in the hopes that she won't have to fight for those things, if that makes sense. Like, I'm kind of raising her to be able to fight and to give her the knowledge and the understanding that she needs to fight. But at the same time, I'm hoping that it will not be a fight that she will have to take on. Um, so yeah, that's basically it. It's about kind of, now that we are in this time where we are basically, hopefully, knocking everything to the ground. We are dismantling our old way of life and looking to the future and kind of thinking about how that future could look. It's about designing the blueprint for that future. Like, now, today, this minute, we each have an opportunity to completely rebuild our lives from the ground up, and not just our own lives, but the lives of those around us, the world in general. And just, yeah, really kind of design our future. Um, so, what does your blueprint look like? I would love to hear from any of you if you have ideas of what you would like. If you thought about, if you sat down today and you thought about, if I were starting again from scratch, if I could choose how the world would look and how my life would look, what would that be? Like, what are some things that I would include in that? Um, so, just kind of some food for thought, hopefully. Let me go back through some comments and questions. Hi, Donna, how are you? Hello, everyone. Hi. It's always lovely to see some familiar faces here. Andrew says there's always nostalgia for the good old days. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we all look back on our lives with these rose tinted glasses. And I've heard from a lot of people recently, talk about this idea of, what is normal? Before this lockdown, people were still suffering from depression, anxiety. There was still injustice in the world. We were still unhappy in our jobs. um, there were various things that we were unhappy with in our lives. And I'm not, definitely not saying that suddenly we'll come out of this lockdown or we'll come out of 2020 and, everything will be sunshine and roses. Absolutely not. But this is an opportunity to at least move towards that and make progress towards that. Um, so there will always be nostalgia, I think, because, yeah, rose tinted glasses, looking back, everything seems rosy. And, I've seen people this morning, because in Ireland today we have started phase two, which is, a lot of retail stores are reopening. People can travel a little bit further. They can visit family and friends and things like that. There are still, a lot of restrictions, but and I've seen some people in my social feed saying that they are going back to work and they're so excited about it. And I'm wondering if, those same people, 6 months ago were complaining about their jobs or were unhappy in their jobs. Um, and that's, I mean, that there's always something that we will complain about and vent about. That's not to say that they don't, like, deep down still enjoy their jobs or whatever. I complain about my job too, even though I love it, but I don't always want to do it. But it's just maybe to take a moment to feel a little bit of gratitude um, for what we do have, and to notice going forward that um, the stuff that's left, some of it, not all of it, but some of it is a blessing. It's a blessing to have a job that you can go to and earn money and feed your family, and not everyone has that. Um, but yeah, it's just about thinking about how you want your life to look and how you want the world to look after, not even after this is over, but like starting from right now. Immediately, like, what are some changes you could implement today that would take you a step closer to the world and the life that you envision for yourself? Um, I don't know if this is just that nobody is commenting on Instagram, but I'm not getting any notifications or comments or questions or anything on Instagram. So if you are sending something, I'm really sorry, but there's nothing showing up for me. Maybe it's just that nobody is actually commenting or leaving questions. But I just wanted to put that out there because it is unusual um, for nobody to like leave questions or anything. So um, let me see. Richard says the new normal is a more clinical place. I mean, it really will be what more bugs go away. A little spider, um, money spider, hopefully. That'd be nice. But yeah, I think the new normal is whatever we make it. We have a choice now and a chance now to really transform the world and to kind of build the world that we want and to design the life that we want. So, yeah, I think it's really what we make of it. And hopefully, I can't see how it would be any worse, put it that way. Um, Let me get cute bread on top, Laura. Thank you. Had it for years, years and years. Let me see. Andrew says he's trying to start his own business. Good luck with that. That's exciting. Shark K9 says it's quite liberating. It is. I think sometimes letting go of old stuff, even though obviously it's terrifying. And like I said at the beginning, sometimes when you get rid of a lot of old ways, a lot of, you know, broken down, rotten, useless systems, you have to get rid of some of the good stuff with that. Some of them are just kind of inextricably linked. When you knock a house to the ground, you knock a lot of good things with it, but the whole idea is that you are able to build something better on those, like on that ground. So I hope that's that's the way I have been thinking about it. You know, like a house that maybe you've lived in, you know, that you feel comfortable in, that you have known for years and years, you've known all your life, and you feel comfortable there and you feel like it's home. But that doesn't mean that it's the best place for you. And it doesn't mean that it's not a dangerous place to be. It doesn't mean that you can't still go on and build something great. It's kind of like relationships. You know, I've been in relationships, you know, pre Sam, where I thought, you know, at the time, young, naive, innocent Laura thought she would never, you know, like, find love again or never have such a great relationship again or whatever. I think, you know, in the moment, you always think, if I let go of this relationship, if I let go of this thing, I will never find anything as good ever again. And that's natural. But usually better things come from it. Hi, Ellie. How are you? Ellie's asking about the donation. So on Instagram, it's a fundraiser for the Bail Project. They help to raise bail money, basically, for people who have been jailed. You know, they're on bail, awaiting, like their case to be heard. It's going on a lot, you know, with the current protests that people are being incarcerated for protesting, and a lot of peaceful protesters. So that is what that is about. Yeah, the Bail Project. There is, and you can look them up online as well there, but that's what they do because there are a lot of people who cannot afford bail. So they end up staying in prison for kind of an indefinite amount of time, basically. So yeah, that's what that's about. Dazzledust is saying that they are going part-time and making more time for myself. That's lovely as well. I think a lot of us now realize what we really need, you know, being away from a lot of kind of noise, I guess, being insulated in your own home, like cocooning and taking yourself away from a lot of outside noise and opinions and ideas really gives you time to reflect, to give you time to reflect on the life that you had and the things that were good in that life and the things that were not so good. Yeah, I think even though this has been a tough year so far, it will probably produce something wonderful. At least that's what I hope. That's what I hope. Um, I've thought even from the beginning about, like, as soon as the pandemic kind of kicked off, in my head, and I actually said it to various people, I possibly even said it on a live stream. Um, but in my head, it was kind of like a mini extinction event. It was like the planet's way of trying to right itself. Um, and, because there were so many stories of, like the canals in Venice running clear for the first time in, I don't know, modern memory. Um, people being able to, people who lived in cities, smog filled cities, being able to see the sky again, being able to hear birds singing again. Um, obviously the pandemic and now the recent protests obviously is a very difficult time, but there are some good things that have come from it, and hopefully even more good things that will come from it if we all kind of learn the lessons from it and really go inwards and dig into um, what we can learn from it and um, what benefits can come from it. Um, Hannah says we have to start taking care of this planet and all the living things here, plants, animals, people, but it will not happen. Most people will go back to their old lives because change is too hard. I agree up to a certain point. I do think a lot of people will go back to their old lives because, again, yeah, change is hard and it's just easier to slip back into old habits. And a lot of us will. I think the vast majority of us will go back to at least some form of normality or familiarity, maybe a better word to use. But I think there are also a lot of us who realize that change does need to happen. There are some people who will go all in. Um, and there always are, like history always has those people who go all in and they change the world. And then there are other people who will just make small changes that will all add up. Like every contribution is significant. So there are things that we can all do, even if we don't completely overhaul our entire lives. There are still things that you can do. Um, and that's why I said that in the email as well. It's not about building a bigger future. Like you don't have to have this massive contribution, but it's about building a better future. And better just means better than right now. It doesn't mean that overnight everything has to be wonderful and perfect and we have to like transform into utopia overnight. But if we can all do things, little things in our everyday lives to just make the world that little bit better, I think that is something that everybody can do, even if you do kind of retreat to the safety of familiarity, which is completely natural. We can still all do little things that will still pave the way for a brighter, better future. Um, And he's asking if she can donate on YouTube. Absolutely. I did say at the beginning. So on YouTube, basically what's going to happen is next week, next Monday, any ad revenue that the stream has earned or any like super chats or anything like that, I will donate all of those proceeds to the Innocence Project, which is a similar project to the Bail Project. It's an organization that is local to Cincinnati here. So yeah. Mhm. Let me see. Um, Richard's saying that he's surprised that we're not going back to work together as a United Kingdom. That's everyone is doing things at such a different rate and such a different pace, and it's hard. And I think it's a real, some areas were not as quick to adopt certain measures as others were. Some places kind of shut down immediately. It's really hard to kind of for everyone to like for the world to get back on track together when things were implemented so differently on like different time frames. Like different, the world is such a varied, vast place. There are some countries that just, have more people than others. So it's going to potentially spread there a lot quicker. Some places implemented measures immediately. New Zealand now, I believe, is completely free of coronavirus cases. So, which is wonderful. I think we are moving in the right direction, but I still think we need to exercise caution, obviously, because we don't want um, us to be just back at square one where everybody rushes out and then there is another spike of this. Sharp K9 says no introverts are happy going back to work. I will be happy when Sam and Scout leave the house again, when Sam goes back to work. Sam, it was kind of interesting for him because they were planning long before this, they were planning to close for this summer anyway, because there was construction work being done on their offices. So we always knew that this was going to be, we always knew he was going to be home this summer anyway. And they just ended up kind of leaving a little bit earlier than planned. But yeah, he was always going to be home for the summer. Scout, we were assuming would be in a summer camp, but obviously that didn't happen. But I will be happy when schools reopen and Sam goes back to work. Hannah says she closed her. Sorry, I don't even know. I'm assuming she, but that may be incorrect. But Hannah says, I closed my Instagram account. I found it depressing. I do not scroll through my Facebook feed anymore, and I do not scroll through my Twitter feed. I still go through my Instagram feed, but it's kind of been carefully curated to stuff that I actually enjoy seeing. Obviously, right now I'm seeing a lot of stuff that hurts my heart a lot. But Facebook, I gave up on a long time ago. I completely understand, and I think again, that can be part of your like blueprint for the future, like realizing that social media isn't necessarily always a positive thing. You know, you don't always have to know what everyone is having for dinner. You don't always have to, find out everyone's movements and where they're going for their summer holidays. And not that anyone's going anywhere right now, but I realized that taking myself away from that, I'm not missing anything. Like the people who matter in my life, I'm going to find out about their news. Somebody gets engaged or has a baby or moves or something like that. The people who are truly important to me, I will find out about that. I don't have to see it on Facebook. So I do not miss it at all. Not at all. But that could be something that I've done. Ellie, thank you so much for that super chat. I will be donating that to the Innocence Project. Thank you. And I'm sure thank you on their behalf as well. We have friends who kind of recommended the organization to us. But yeah, that could be part of your blueprint, like looking at what you are kind of allowing yourself to see. Because I think we forget that we have a lot of control over that. A lot of us scroll through our feeds kind of mindlessly, and we forget that that is within our control. If we don't want to see that stuff, we don't have to. You can unfollow, you can mute, you can do all of those wonderful things. You don't have to scroll through your feed. So that is definitely something that I would encourage everyone to do. Something that I have been doing. I noticed this, and I talked about this online, saying that when I looked through the people I was subscribed to, like the channels I was subscribed to on YouTube, the vast majority were white people. There were some Asian people or people of Asian descent who had an Asian heritage, but there was only one Black creator that I was subscribed to. And that was quite eye-opening for me. And I asked people to kind of spotlight their favorite Black creators, and I went like on a hunt for my own. But somebody commented and said you should watch the content that you want to watch, regardless of race or gender or anything like that. And I completely agree with that. I'm not going to watch a creator whose content I don't enjoy just because they are of a certain gender or of a certain race. But the reality is, when I'm only watching, when I watch white channels, those are the types of channels that are going to be suggested to me. Generally on YouTube, I don't go onto the homepage. I don't look at any like suggested stuff. I only watch videos from the channels that I'm already subscribed to, which, as I said, was at the time overwhelmingly white, and is still the majority, I would say, is still white. It's a process that I'm working on. But when I do go to the home feed, I'm seeing basically the same thing because YouTube is going to suggest the same types of channels to me. So while I agree that you should only watch, the content that you want to watch, at the same time, there is still an onus on us to go out and look for more diverse content. Like YouTube is not suggesting that content to me, and that I wouldn't say that's YouTube's fault. That's just because it's suggesting the type of content that it thinks I want to watch. And based on my watch history, it thinks I want to watch white people. And it does, I'm not saying it never suggests Black creators to me, it does. But the like the onus is on me. The onus is on all of us to go seek out that content. So yeah, that's what I have been doing. And thank you for all of your suggestions. I have gone through them and I have been watching much more content, like much more diverse content now. And I'm hoping to expand that. And the same in my kind of social feeds. Like I said, I'm not on Facebook or Twitter all that much. Like for business, I do schedule posts generally, but I only go on and look at my notifications, so comments that people have left on my posts. I don't scroll through the timeline. But then I'm not, exposing myself to that sort of thing. So yeah, diversity is obviously important, but it's important for us to actually, actively like be proactive about seeking it out, because the reality is for a lot of us, because we may have a lot of white friends, we may follow a lot of white creators, and that is the stuff that is going to be suggested to us. So yeah, I think it comes down to all of us to seek out that diversity. Dakota says, I want to change stuff, but don't have any idea how to even begin. So there are, so many ways. It really depends on kind of what is most important to you. A lot of it will come down to, again, controlling what you allow yourself to see online. Generally, I think online is the way most of us consume our content these days, but actively seeking out diverse content, actively seeking out content that teaches us something. I think one of the first steps always in a big change is learning and researching and listening, but actively doing that rather than hoping that the world will do that for us. If I sat back and just hoped that YouTube would recommend Black creators to me, or same on Instagram or anything like that, if I sat back and waited for an algorithm to suggest more diverse content to me, that's probably never going to happen. I need to go out myself, and then when an algorithm sees that I enjoy diverse content, it's going to recommend more of that to me. So I always think that that's a good place to start with your social media and with the things that you are consuming on a regular basis. Have a look at that, unfollow the things that you're no longer interested in, and then seek out content that you are genuinely interested in. Let me see. Andrew, I like that idea, designing my world the way I want it to be. Absolutely. I think, again, a lot of us forget that we have a huge amount of control over our lives. It's so easy to kind of fall into that, and I'm guilty of this myself, to fall into that idea of, just going through the motions. You get up, you go to work, you come home, you make dinner, maybe you sit in front of the TV or you watch YouTube videos or whatever, and we just have this kind of routine, and we never consciously think to change it. We just, because we have become so used to it, we start to think like that's just the way our lives are. So yeah, I think when you realize how much control you have over what you do, the type of content that you consume, and you have a voice as well. If you are not happy about something, you can express that opinion. If you are not happy with the diversity that you see in the media, you can write to somebody. I have been writing emails and stuff last week. expressing frustration and demanding change, essentially. Um, so yeah, realizing how much control you actually do have. Obviously not over every single thing, but I think if you sit down and you are honest with yourself about the things that you can actually change, the things that are within your control, you may be surprised. Um, Richard is going back to work in Liverpool on Friday after furlough. I wonder what sort of Liverpool I will see. I guess it's you will probably see a different Liverpool to what you saw before, but you will also possibly see a different sort of Liverpool to what other people who are there see. Like, we each have our own um, perspective and our own viewpoint. So I think if you look at it with the sense of, hope and a sense of personal responsibility that you can change it for the better, and seeking out the good things, and when you do see things that are wrong, fighting to change those things. So I hope that you do see a better Liverpool. um, Faith says she wants to regain her sleeping pattern. That is, I'm doing like a series of content this month on kind of overcoming tiredness and things like that this month. So there's the one on Thursday is about, Thursday's video is about ways to kind of combat tiredness, how to stop being tired all the time. And then there are some things around, helping you to sleep better. So that's actually coming. That has been planned. I had to push it. I pushed it back because I didn't want to. It didn't feel right to upload content last week. Donna says changes happen throughout history, but people forget what life was like before or why the change occurred. They mustn't misunderstand why things were done and change the meaning to what today it means. Yeah, I think we all have to look back at changes as in they may have been a huge step forward at the time. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are still valid systems or beliefs today. Absolutely, I agree with that. Let me see. That says I'll be 58 tomorrow and I still don't know what I want in life. First of all, happy birthday. That's wonderful. I hope you enjoy your birthday. I hope you have a wonderful birthday. Use the time now to sit down and ask yourself what you want in life. Never too late. It's never too late. Let me go through some more. I'm sorry, I've missed. Okay, so the comments now are flooding in on Instagram and I've missed so many of them. Mary saying when she tries to donate on here, it pulls up a blank screen. Because it's unavailable in her country. She's going to make a local donation. Great. Let me see. Ballerina says my Instagram is mostly just cute dog accounts. It's a great escape from all the darkness and sadness in the world. Yeah, I think we need that. We do need escape, while still being cognizant that we also can't be completely blind to what's going on. But yeah, escape, that mental break, so necessary. A says she stopped scrolling TikTok and Instagram because they made her sad. Yeah, TikTok is one, I downloaded it kind of, to see what all the fuss was about. And nah, I scrolled through for a little bit. I was like, this is not for me. If I saw one more video where it was like for part 2, I'm like, are you kidding me? No, I can't do that. Let me see. Mari says, respectfully, I would say that having the ability to curate a social feed to choose what we want to see is a big privilege. Having the ability to opt out means we can turn it off, which many people cannot. I guess I never thought about that. There are so many ways in which I am privileged. And it's, I guess the last week or so has been very eye-opening in that regard. I was always conscious of it, but never really delved into it, never really looked at the extent of it, and still, honestly, have no grasp of the full extent of it. This is just tip of the iceberg stuff, and it's a very humbling, upsetting thought. And I think that, like I said, change is not going to happen overnight. I do think that there are certain things that I can do with my privilege, like use it for good. And we attended a protest yesterday, and that's kind of what one of the speakers was talking about, that a lot of us, because we are white, we have a platform and we have access to things that Black people don't, and we need to use that network and those platforms and those benefits for good. It's not about necessarily denying our privilege, it's about using it to um, raise everyone else to the same level. Um, so I completely understand where you're coming from. I completely understand that not everyone has that privilege. Um, but I also feel that having the privilege, if you have it, you have a responsibility to use it for good. Um, it's not, to me, it's not about denying the privilege, because that denies that there's a problem. Um, so yeah, I think it's a really difficult topic, but that is what I took away from the protest that we attended yesterday, that it's not about denying your privilege. It is about accepting it. It's about learning more about it. It's about learning more about the systems that have led to that privilege, and the systems that have led to other people not having that privilege, and using any privilege that we do have to effect change, essentially. And one way that I am doing that is by using the platform that I have and the voice that I have to educate myself, to educate others, and again, to ensure that I am supporting Black creators and Black businesses, things like that, by following them online, by watching their videos, by donating or purchasing things from them, or whatever it may be. So um, that's the way that I am looking at it. I there I don't want to say there's nothing I can do about it. What I mean by that is I can't go back and erase the privilege that I've had in my life thus far. But what I can do now is to try and realize how deep that goes, and to do what I can to make sure that other people um, have the same amount of privilege, that everyone has the same amount of privilege. So that is a great. I thank you for bringing that up. It's a topic that we need to discuss more, um, because we can't undo history. Like, we can't undo what has already been done. All we can do is fight for a better future. Um, so, yeah, it's a really difficult conversation, and one that I wish I had been having long before now, honestly. Um, yeah. Um, see, sorry, I'm trying to go through all of your comments and questions, but thank you for bringing that up, Mary. It's like, privilege is definitely a conversation that, like I said, I've always been conscious of it, but just the extent of it, I don't think I will ever be able to wrap my head around. I'm trying, but it's just, it's a dark, long history. Karen says, after getting back to work, I noticed that people are kinder to each other. We haven't been that hard in Austria, but I think people realize that everyone is struggling. So that's nice to see. It is really great to see the good that could come of this. I feel like right now we're just in the seed planting phase, really, or maybe not even there yet. Maybe we're just researching all of the different ways that we can plant the seeds. But it is important to plant those seeds. We have been having talks with Scout, and even though she doesn't fully understand, I'm trying not to let myself get frustrated, and just having the conversations and hoping that it does become, that it does sink in with her, that as she matures, her understanding will mature. And if we don't have these conversations, her understanding will not mature because it won't even be on her radar. So we are planting the seeds with her as well. Um, but yesterday as we were trying to explain things to her, and she came with us to the protest, um, trying to explain what it's all about and why it's important. She just doesn't fully grasp that yet, but in time she will. Um, Dazzledust says, really interesting that 6 of the countries with the best COVID-19 outcomes have female leadership. Do you have any thoughts or ideas on this, Laura? I do. I have noticed that too. And I have seen a lot of articles about that. And I I don't have any answers in the sense that I can't say for definite why that is. I think, and it's hard to say anything that's not going to be taken as something that is stereotypical or sexist or anything like that. But I feel historically, biologically, that women are more in tune with emotions, that we are more geared towards that kind of caregiving role. And I think men have a different, equally valuable role, but it's focused on different things. They're focused on providing. Again, I don't want to kind of, you know, paint stereotypes or anything like that, but I do feel that um, that may explain it. That maybe male leaders, and not all of them, again, not all of them, but male leaders were focused on the economy and the financial aspect of it, which again is a huge part of it. You can't let a company or a country like financially crumble either. But I do feel that maybe, again, like my opinion for what it's worth, I do feel very often they fulfill the caregiver role, so they're concerned with people and how people feel. And like I said, both roles very valuable. You can't really have one without the other. There needs to be a balance. But that is my own personal take on it. Um, like I said, for what it's worth. Um, Donna says, I wish we could have get togethers where I am. This week is my 25th anniversary for my first cancer diagnosis. I wish I could celebrate that I made it through, even though they gave me less than a year. First of all, I can't even imagine what that was like for you. First of all, just to go through that. Um, but you have a community here. Um, I like we will all celebrate with you. That's wonderful. That is a huge achievement. It's a lot to overcome. And I know because you and I have spoken, I know that you have had other struggles, and you continue to have other struggles. Um, so I know what you have overcome. You're one of the strongest people that I know, even though I don't really know you, but we've emailed back and forth. Um, Let me see. Yeah, Kathleen says that's a huge anniversary to celebrate. It is. And, don't feel that just because you can't celebrate on that particular day doesn't mean that you can't celebrate. And it doesn't mean that you can't celebrate with other people. You may just have to postpone it, but still celebrate. Definitely still celebrate. And maybe plan something wonderful. There will be a 26th anniversary too, and a 27th, and many, many more. So while I'm sure it is disappointing, it's definitely, not it's not the kind of be all end all. It's you can still celebrate in your own way, and you can still plan a celebration with others for when you can, and there will still be many, many more celebrations ahead of you. Lots of people saying congratulations to you. So yeah, you can celebrate here with us. Okay, I'm going to hop off soon, so I'm just going to scroll really quickly. Karen says, I like that you have a voice. Sentiment. That's one thing that I can change, expressing my opinion. Thank you for that input, Laura. Yeah, we all have, there's so many different things we can do. Like I said at the beginning, even if, donating is not within your budget, there are still petitions that you can sign. There are still emails that you can send. You can still kind of like vote. You can still take your business away from companies and organizations whose message you don't support. Like I stopped buying um, like gossip magazines and visiting those websites a long, long time ago because that just wasn't, I felt, a good use of my time, and it's not something that I wanted to continue exposing myself to, and it's not something that I wanted my daughter to be exposed to, even though I did it long before I had her. But, thinking about the future, like, is that what I wanted for the world? Like, was that something that I was happy to kind of perpetuate and support in the world? And it just wasn't. So if there are organizations that you feel, their messaging doesn't match yours, um, stop visiting their websites, stop visiting their stores, stop giving them your time and your money. Send them an email, expressing your opinions and your beliefs and some ways that you feel that they could do better. We each have a voice. I sent emails last week and I was getting back notifications that their mailboxes were full. Like they couldn't, one of those like delivery failure things, automatic things, because their mailbox was full. And that was because so many people across the country and across the world were also emailing to say this is not right and you need to change. So Kathleen says she was in college during the riots in the 60s. Some change came about, but a lot of it was short-lived. Yeah, and that's, it's very frustrating and disappointing that there's still a need to protest. But little by little change will happen. I think it's inevitable. The more we do, the quicker it will happen. So this has obviously been an ongoing fight. And again, I'm not going to sit here and say that I have been fighting this for a long, long time, but I've always been conscious of it. But I've never been as vocal as I should have been about it. But change has happened. Some change was not short lived. Like emancipation was not short lived. There are, some change is lasting. So we need to continue to do that. I mean, Minneapolis now have declared that they are disbanding their police department. Um, but that's a change that I never expected. But change will happen. And like I said, it just comes down to how proactive we are. That will determine how quickly change happens and how lasting that change is. Let me see. Sharpkina, this has been inspiring. Thank you so much for the chat and live stream. You are very welcome. I'm glad it has been inspiring. I wanted to come on and talk about it, not just in global terms, but also in personal terms. What I am doing and what we can each do in our lives, even just to make our own lives that little bit better. Because it starts individually. I started off just kind of questioning my own heart, my own beliefs, my own biases. A very uncomfortable experience, I have to say, but that's where it starts. Like I'm starting this in my own heart and in my own home. I've had many conversations with Sam and Scout about this, and thankfully we are all on the same page. Scout obviously is a little bit too young to fully understand, but then it was, writing emails. We've donated to multiple organizations. Yesterday we went out and protested, all of us together as a family. So yeah, it's going to be an ongoing process. And I think now it's more important than ever, because now, once all of the news stuff dies down and the protests will I guess, inevitably start to die down and things will go back to normal, that's when it's most important to keep going. And again, small changes can make a big, huge difference. Um, I think that's I think that's all I'm going to do because there are so many, and I'm so glad that you're all here. And he's asking like what kind of companies. So there are various like media outlets that are incredibly biased. I don't want to name any right here because I have not done enough research into this. Um, but I think if you, even if you look at the type of content you are consuming, so if there is a news outlet that you follow, what type of news are they reporting? You'll see, like in recent weeks, a lot of people have only been reporting on riots and looting, and have not been giving nearly as much print time or like TV time to all of the peaceful protests and demonstrations that are happening. The demonstration that we attended yesterday was very well organized. It was very peaceful. It was very moving. It was beautiful. It was a very emotional experience, but it was incredibly peaceful. So what, the news sources that you are consuming, what are they showing you? Are they showing you fear-based stuff? Or are they showing you? And this is something actually that somebody who spoke at the demonstration yesterday said. She was white and she said that she wanted to bring her kids to a protest, but she was afraid because everything she was seeing on the news was all like looting and violence and riots. And she hesitated, like she didn't want to bring her kids into that environment. She thought it would be risky. And she realized then, after doing a little bit more research, that what she was seeing from those news outlets was not an accurate reflection of everything that was happening. So she did bring her kids, and the protest that she brought them to was peaceful. So again, it comes down to what you're seeing in your feed. Magazines that you're reading, do they have diversity in their models? Do they have diversity in the types of articles that they print? All of that type of thing. Like if you go into any store that has like a magazine rack and you look at it, how much diversity are you seeing in terms, not just in terms of race, but also in terms of gender, in terms of size, lots of different things like that play into it. So becoming more aware and looking into, like, if there is a company that you support, doing a little bit of research online, like what do they stand for? Which companies have been quiet on certain issues? Which companies support organizations or presidents or whatever that you do not support? So those are all the ways. I think online, it comes down to your experience online. Maybe that's just me because I live a lot of my life online. But being more conscious of the types of things that the types of content that you are consuming, and whether it aligns with your values and whether it aligns with the future that you want for you, for your kids, for your grandkids, for future generations. So again, it's about using any privilege that we do have. If you have privilege, you have a responsibility to use that for good. That's plain and simple. And I have, like I said, I will not sit here and tell you that I have always been vocal about the Black community or about racial injustice. I have spoken on multiple previous occasions about, the fact that I donate to homeless shelters and local kids who do not have school lunches. So yeah, but this is kind of a new Instagram. I'm back on Instagram. Sorry. You know what happened? I actually have a time limit set on Instagram, so the app will close. Not back at all. Okay, Instagram just closed for me. Okay, that I'm using that as my cue to leave. It's another thing you can do: put time limits on all of your apps and stuff. So after a certain amount of time, they will just stop. They would close, and you'll get a notification. But yeah, if you do some research online, you will find businesses. There are certain businesses that do not have a very good history of um, like what they support. Again, I don't want to name any because I haven't done enough research myself to be able to say definitively. But I have read a lot of articles that, you know, would indicate that those are not the best businesses to be supporting. And there are a few that I have um, supported myself. Ellie saying Instagram flows. Yes, it has, Ellie. That's because I have a time limit set on the app for how long I can use it every day. And it just closed down because of that, because my time ran out. But yeah, use your privilege, use the voice that you have, look with a critical eye at the content you are consuming, and just try and make better choices for yourself, for your family, for the world. They can be small changes, they can be big changes, but as long as they're better changes, changes for the better. Um, so yeah, like I said, next Monday I will come back on here. I will look at the ad revenue that this stream has earned, and I will donate all of that to the Innocence Project here in Cincinnati. And then whatever the Instagram feed has earned, that will just go directly to the Bail Project. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Yeah, don't go back to normal. You know, sit down today and ask yourself, if I could design my life from scratch, because you can, you know, in most cases, for a lot of it, you do have a lot of control. So if you could redesign your life, if you were sitting down today to draw out the blueprints for your life, what would that look like? So I hope you all have a wonderful day, a wonderful week. I will be back on live streaming on Instagram on Wednesday. I will turn off the time limit thing for Wednesday. But thank you for your donations. Thank you for your time just in watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being good people, basically. Have a great day, everyone. Bye. See ya.